Got you now.
Hey guys.
Hello. Hello from
hi.
I'm in
COP27.
Egypt.
We
Sort
are
of.
in Egypt.
Yes.
And you're in London. I'm
feels
very
like-
sorry.
I'm in London here at Earthrise studio. I'm very sad not to be there. I'm having serious FOMO. How's it going?
Pretty well so far. We've got a bit of a crowd forming. And I think we're ready to kick off with the people that are here. So, hello everyone, and welcome to our session, We Are Antarctica film screening and conversation. Hope that's not me. We've got the fabulous Jack Harries from Earthrise Studio joining us here today. Jack is a filmmaker, and he's also co-founder of Earthrise Studio, which are a creative studio that tell stories of a more hopeful, positive future. I'm also joined on stage by Shivi Dwivedi, who is the youth engagement lead for the high-level climate champions. And she has been instrumental in putting this pavilion here in place, the first ever children youth pavilion. Can I get a big round of applause for that, please?
One of those. One of
those, but pretty important. You're my rock. Shivi has also been an advisor to this entire campaign called We're Antarctica, which has been a collaboration between Earthrise Studio and my foundation, Reboot the Future. So I am a campaigns and communications lead for a UK-based organization, a not-for-profit called Reboot the Future. And we believe that a better future is possible if we followed one simple rule called a golden rule, and that is to treat others and the planet as we wish to be treated. Now, it could be quite easy to treat someone you know well, but how do you treat the land as you wish to be treated? That's a pretty abstract concept, and that's what we took to Jack right at the start of this year. And the piece of land I'm talking about is a piece of land that's fundamental to the health of our oceans and to our climate, and that is Antarctica. So Antarctica is a vast icy expanse at the bottom of the world, and the big icy white surface is instrumental in reflecting solar radiation back out into space and keeping temperatures habitable for all of us, actually, all around the world. So we owe a lot to Antarctica. She gives a lot to us. And how can we give back and connect and really explore that relationship that we have with her that's ongoing? So we gave this challenge to Jack. And Jack, being a creative, said yes. And I'd like to hand over to you, Jack, actually, and just to introduce the film and yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you've created before we go into watching it.
For sure, it's such a good compare, and I'm enjoying watching. I keep forgetting that I actually have to speak as well. I just want to be an audience member. I also can't see the audience, so I have no sense whether anyone's watching this. I can just see you guys. It looks like you're on the set of like a children's TV show, but I'm assuming there are people there.
There are people here. Guys, can you give a really big shout for Jack, please, to show that you're here, please? Say hi, Jack. Yeah, there's some people.
I'll take your word for it. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you to everyone who's come to join this session. I'm really sorry I can't be there in person. I wish that I could, but I'm very happy to be zooming in for this session. So, yes, my name is Jack. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I'm one of the co-founders of Earthrise Studio, which is, as Ellen has said, is a creative studio that aims to communicate climate and culture. We sort of strive to tell human stories and to paint a more optimistic view of the future. This collaboration came about at the start of this year when Reboot the Future came to us and they offered us the opportunity to go to Antarctica. And as Ellen said, the challenge was a difficult one. It was how can we give Antarctica a voice at the upcoming COP27? And this is something that really interested me. We'd made a series last year called Seat at the Table, which aimed to give frontline voices a seat at the negotiating table at COP26. And the idea of giving a continent a voice felt like a really interesting challenge, particularly one that is not owned by a single country. It has no indigenous people. So in a way, it's a challenge to try and find a way to give it a voice. And I spent a long time trying to figure out how to approach this film. And in the end, my kind of opinion on it was formed by talking to many different people. Shivi, who was on the trip herself, Danny Keeler, who was another participant on the ship. And one thing Danny said to me, which really influenced the way I thought about this, was we don't need to give nature a voice. It already has one. And that really kind of went round my head, and I realized that it was less about me or any of us giving nature a voice, but more about us reevaluating our own relationship to nature. understanding our own connection or lack of connection, and our own sort of value system. So that's how the project came about, and that was kind of how my thinking developed around it. But yeah, I'm very happy to be screening it today. I don't know whether we screen it next.
We're about to screen it. Apparently, I say play film, and the film plays. So.
Antarctica. A vast landscape of ice and mountains. White as far as the eye can see. Uninhabitable to humans. Yet impacted by every action we take. Today, the continent stands at a crossroads.
We're talking about changes that are being driven, warming the atmosphere.
Water temperatures are a few degrees above normal. The glacier itself is starting to develop a lot of cracks and fractures.
What if we really stopped to listen? I've often dreamt of Antarctica. They say it's the last great wilderness on Earth. To me, it evokes images of polar explorers, stories of the most intrepid kind. Given the chance to join an expedition myself, I wanted to retrace their footsteps, to look deeper into the history of this elusive continent. To get there, you have to cross one of the most dangerous oceans on Earth, the Drake Passage. Imagine waves of up to 30 feet tall, and nothing but giant petrels and albatross to guide the way. It's strange to think so few humans have ventured to this part of the world. Those who have come are driven by a deep sense of adventure, curiosity, and scientific inquiry.
Why did we explore? Why did we go to the bottom of the world?
This is Antarctica. The history and secrets of Earth are hidden under the ice.
But behind the tales of adventure, buried deep within the ice, lie dark stories of our past. She has watched as we have tried to conquer her, claim her, and colonize her.
Fly again over Little America.
Even tried to control her.
During an era of unlimited power, when science may be able to alter the temperature balance and convert the cold regions to hospitable, productive ones.
Her resources were pillaged, and wildlife driven to the brink of extinction.
The chase is on. He fires. The whale's pace is slowing. The distance is narrowing. The second harpoon is fired. Brief struggle as the whale fights for its life. In these conditions, whales will be harder to find, even harder to shoot.
Pieces of destruction left in our wake. It's on this icy continent that our relationship to nature is revealed. We are guests on a wild planet. Today, the continent faces a new threat. She is changing, cracking, crying out and breaking into pieces. What was once ice is becoming water. The maps are being redrawn and the geography of our planet is being rewritten.
The warming atmosphere is creating serious problems.
Welcome to the Thwaites Glacier.
Scientists are warning of dramatic changes at one of the biggest glaciers in Antarctica.
It poses an international security threat.
The size of Great Britain.
A dramatic sea level rise.
As human activity warms the planet, and as pieces fall away, we must ask, what is our relationship to this magnificent land? She is not a resource to conquer and pillage, but a fundamental part of our very being. Whilst Antarctica may feel far away, we are in a constant dialogue, a symbiosis. Our actions are transforming this delicate ecosystem, and in return, she threatens to transform all of our lives. To protect ourselves, we must protect our source. We must reimagine our relationship to the natural world, to treat her the way we wish to be treated ourselves. We are Antarctica, and she is us.
So, Jack, first I want to ask you, how did going to Antarctica and creating this film really make you think about your relationship with nature and the people on this planet?
Yeah, well, I think the challenge you guys set me of making this film and really embarking on this path was really eye-opening for me, and it forced me to ask a lot of questions about my own relationship with nature, as I said at the beginning. And as you can see from the film, that kind of led me down a path of looking back at history and sort of asking, well, what sort of relationship have we held with nature up until now? You know, what the system that I've grown up in, like what sort of value do we give to nature? And you know, we have grown up in a time that has been defined by colonialism, by oppression, by extractivism, led predominantly by countries like the one I'm from, you know, the United Kingdom, countries that are predominantly in the global north. And so part of the process was looking back at that and understanding that, and particularly looking at how that played out, you know, with the example of Antarctica. And you see that in the archive there of whaling and all these attempts by various countries to like colonize this piece of land and transform the climate to be, you know, productive and habitable to humans. And I, you know, when I came across that archive, I thought it was so insightful into understanding why our relationship with nature is so broken. So that was a sort of journey it set me on, and then really asking the questions of, you know, how should we try and transform this relationship? And a big part of that was, you know, thinking of nature more as, you know, I refer to nature as her in the film, which is often striking to people. But I think there's something about humanizing nature that is really important, because it helps us understand that it's not a thing to be extracted, to be used for our own will, but a living, breathing being that we really need to be in conversation with. And so the question of like, how do we give nature a voice, which you guys sort of set me at the start, I think where I've come to on that is, we don't need to give nature a voice. It very much has one, but we need to amplify that voice. And there's nowhere more important to do that than the very conference that you guys are sat at. All around the world, nature is screaming out, attempting to get us to address the imbalance that we have created. Like all of the climate disasters that we're all well aware of, we're seeing around the world, these are signs of a broken system, a system that's out of balance. And so, we hear a lot about needing a new story. I don't think the story is actually new. I think it's actually a really old one, and it's a story that's been told for many, many years by indigenous communities, by land protectors. And so I think, our role, or my role, I see as a filmmaker and someone, with a platform online, is to try and lift up these voices, to lift up the voice of youth, of BIPOC communities, of people who are sort of speaking for nature, and have long kind of woven nature into their value system, to try and sort of, wake ourselves up to the broken story we've been telling for many years.
100%. Thank you, Jack. You're so right. And I think it really is that the thing that you bring is, particularly in storytelling and film and media, enables us to connect with places as far away as Antarctica, but also with issues that maybe aren't at the forefront of our minds. And I think that's what creativity really does for the climate movement, is kind of bring people into a space where they can reimagine their relationship to nature and to spaces that are really fundamental to our health and well-being. What we do and say here at COP27 has an impact on Antarctica, and what happens in Antarctica has a profound impact on us. And I think that's really important to remember. Speaking of uplifting voices and giving Antarctica a voice, there's no one that does that better in my mind than Shivi, who's sat here with me now. Shivi, you've given people a voice and a space in this youth pavilion to come and to feel safe and to feel heard. And I'd really like to know how going to Antarctica, I mean, for me, it looks kind of depressing, right? There's debris everywhere. There's stuff that we left behind when, we had our whaling stations down there. How did you find inspiration from that journey, and how has it fueled you in what you do now when you work here? So how has it inspired you?
First of all, so it's not just me, it's a massive movement that has made this happen, and we can touch upon that a bit later. But for me, Antarctica was something that's been on my mind for over a decade. And I think it was my way of really finding what is it that I'm working for, what is it that I'm fighting for, when we say, it's climate change, what kind of impact, what are we ruining? So for me, Antarctica was that distant, beautiful, pure thing, uninhabited by people. Especially coming from India, which is so densely populated. It always made me curious at what does a place that does not have this kind of human footprint look like? What does it feel like? What would make me feel like, having never been in such a close contact or in such environment like in Antarctica? And I think from a previous conversation, somebody said you really have to go there to really understand what it does to you. And we've got Mark here, who I'd love to go to a little bit later to ask what was his experience like. But for me, it's what I felt there, which is what I go to ground myself. Then in the spaces that I am, or when you're facing a challenge, or when things aren't going right, or there's bad news all around the world, what motivates you? I think it's my journey, or it's remembering what I saw, what I felt, how I felt around nature, how I connected with nature. 100%. And that, and it's all about building that common feeling with nature.
It's a feeling, and I feel that, if we tap into really our hearts and our feelings, then that is what gives us strength, and that's what motivates us in times of crisis. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like we've been hearing about the science now for as long as I can remember. Someone said earlier that we've known about the science of climate change for about 150 years now, and still no one's listening. And I think it's not a crisis of knowledge. It is a crisis of imagination, of connection. We're going through a cultural crisis of connection. And our lives are so fast-paced, and we don't stop to really listen to what's in our hearts and then to act on it and to draw strength from our experiences. Like Shivi was just saying, going there gave her an experience that she goes back to when she wants to recharge on that feeling and use that feeling to move her forward and to keep the energy. You're here for 2 weeks? More than 2 weeks?
Yes.
Yeah? Is
3
anyone
weeks.
else feeling tired? Like, and they've only been here a couple of days? Yeah? Anybody feeling that? Yeah, great. Me too. 20 days? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So I have a couple more questions for both of you, actually. But I think what would be interesting is, does everybody have a little pink card? Do you have a pink card? And if you don't have a pink card, this man here is going to give you a pink card. So part of the campaign is we're using the film as a jumping off point to start a conversation. And I would really like you right now to get into pairs or groups, preferably with someone that you don't know, and to just have a chat about the question that is on your card for a couple of minutes. I'm going to talk to Jack and Shivi for a minute while you all do that. And then we're all going to come back into the room, and we're going to have a little sharing session about what you spoke about with your partner, and try and get that conversation going. Jack, it's hard for me to have a chat with you, but my question to you is, what breaks your heart? And then what gives you strength and rebuilds it again? So can you please think about that? And I'll come back to you in a second. And I'm going to talk to Shivi about it.
Sure.
I'm going to talk to you. You can't hear me? Thank you. Yeah, thank you. What breaks your heart? Okay, can I get everyone back in the room? And I want you all to just hold in your mind's eye the conversation you were just having. And not only what you just said, but also what your partner said to you. And see if you were actually listening or just thinking about what you were going to say next. So I want everyone just to keep that in their mind. And I'm going to come back to Jack because he sat there so patiently. Jack, can you hear me? Are you listening? Amazing. I can't.
I was on mute. Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, I can hear you. Gorgeous.
I hear you.
Can you see me when I look straight ahead at this camera in front of me? Is that when you can see me? Cool. Jack, I asked you what breaks your heart the most, and I would like a succinct answer so I can bring some of your fans on stage and they can share what they were talking about as well. So, Jack, what breaks your heart, please?
Wow, what a question. It's hard to pinpoint one thing, isn't it? I think it's one of the things about climate is it's sort of an overwhelming sense of grief and fear and anxiety and all the emotions. But I think what breaks my heart the most is to understand the injustice of climate change and how it plays out around the world, and particularly to indigenous communities, communities that have held this sacred relationship to nature for so long, and to see how that their cultures have been erased by colonialism and by the West. I think that's probably something I find the most heartbreaking.
Yeah, I totally hear that. And I know we had Danny on earlier who spoke about the fact that indigenous peoples are only 4% of the population, but they safeguard 80% of our wild places.
Biodiversity.
And someone said to me yesterday, just in a random conversation, they said we need to protect people so that they feel empowered to protect the planet. And I think that is such an important point, because we cannot protect the planet when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling anxious, when we're feeling negative. We start to go into survival mode. We want to just protect ourselves. So we need to look after ourselves first so that we're able to give out into the world and to protect nature and make it habitable for everyone. Does anyone want to come on up and share? Do you want to come up? Come on up. Now, Jack is there, and you're going to have...
I can't see the stage. I'd love to see people coming up. I just see for myself.
Oh, I would love...
Join us. Have a seat.
What's it?
And chat to Jack.
Should I talk to him, I guess? Yeah. Okay. Well, I just wanted to first of all say thank you for your video. I know a few years ago I tried to make a short film about climate change, and I posted it on YouTube, and it was very subpar. But just trying to show people what's happening and make it more realistic rather than another world. Because I feel like when people think about Antarctica, they think about a different dimension almost, and they don't look at it as something that is right there with us. And I know that's something else that's been really challenging when trying to engage people with the conversation about how the Arctic and Antarctica are melting. It's all about how we can't stop the melting now, that we've already done too much damage, and how there's always going to be heat in our environment. And how would you almost respond to that, firstly? And I just want to say one more comment, that your video actually really inspired me to even write a poem about it, because I feel like no one really talks about what is happening, because it's more about the immediate. I think humans are very selfish to not think about the future almost. Yeah, so that's my question and my comment, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing. Is there any way you want to share your poem? I'd love to hear the poem. Do you have it with you? Maybe she can come.
I think he's saying, do you have your poem and can we share it? Can you share it? No, she... Do you want to come share it? Go share it, come on. Everyone wants you to share it.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
Yeah.
I just wrote it like now, so it's not good.
Amazing.
I mean, I don't know if anyone here likes to write poetry as well, but it's not that good. Okay. It's called Antarctic. Okay. I'm dying. Can't you see me? My tears are spilling through my jagged core. I'm drowning, unable to breathe. Why won't you look? Just open up my door. I have cried out to you. My demons, I have sent messages and calls, yet you brawl and ignore and focus on nothing but yourself, orbital, distracted, created by your kind. Have I lost my mind? I am telling you, I am just trying to find my pieces, my melted ice. I mean, I am fighting for my people to just survive. My years of history, fallen brothers and their names. Why do you supposedly claim the supposed ownership of my space? Look past just today. This is not your Earth. It is mine. The skies, the oceans and reef below. It is the birds, the jaguars, animals and their ghosts. It is the sunflowers, the arachnids, and the overgrown cantaloupe. You are just a guest, dear human. Treat me well. I am your host.
Wow, mic drop.
I have goosebumps. I don't know if you felt those goosebumps all the way back in London, Jack, but we definitely have them here in Sharm el Sheikh. So thank you so much for that. So much.
I have tears in my eyes here in London. Thank you. What was that woman's name?
Pardon? What's her name?
What was that woman's name?
What is your name?
Amara Unelli.
Amara. That was so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. You are such a talent. You just wrote that today. That's
Just
insane.
Right
Step
now.
aside Amanda Gorman was what I was thinking as you were reading. Wow, what a powerful voice. Thank you so much for sharing that. I've totally forgotten the questions. I've just been so moved by your poem. I think it was something about being too late to limit melting of the ice caps, or people sort of saying it is. Was that what the question related to?
That was the question.
I mean, yeah, I think this could be applied, to the climate crisis in a wider sense, right? But every year that we delay and we wait, we risk the effects being more severe, and we are passing tipping points all the time, and we are going to lose huge parts of the polar regions, but that doesn't mean that it's all lost, and I think that's often just another form of denial, that kind of flipping into despair and sort of, there's nothing we can do, it's all lost, so we may as well give up now. And I think that's an easy way out in a strange way. Everything we do, every action we take from this day going forward will have a direct impact on how severe the impacts of the climate crisis are. So yeah, it's not too late, and I think it's up to all of us to do anything and everything that we can. That's my take on it. It's definitely not too late, but the time is now for sure.
Thank you so much. Have we got anyone else in the audience that feels like they want to come and share their question and what they spoke about?
All poems welcome.
Anyone?
That was beautiful.
Come on down. We've got movement. No, we don't. Okay. So I'm actually going to tell you what Shivi and I were just discussing. Shivi, actually, do you want to take away what we were saying about what breaks our heart?
Yeah, for me, and it was a collective that we're often together, but we can all often be quite fragmented, and that's what breaks my heart. And it can be in many different contexts, whether it's work, whether it's at an emotional connection, or whether it's just deep listening. And so it's just we can often be quite fragmented, which is a hindrance to what we're trying to do as a movement as well. And I'm hoping that a space like this, or more conversations at COP, or films like We Are Antarctica helps people really dig deeper to find that connect, as opposed to just, from an organization perspective or a sector perspective or a priority perspective.
100%. Yeah. And I'm guilty of it too, right? I'm guilty of having a conversation with someone and actually just sitting there and thinking about what I'm going to say next and not actually listening to them. And I think if we all just activated our deep listening senses and really took on board what the other person was saying to us, we'd be able to build much stronger senses of empathy with others around us, tune into their needs and also the needs of the planet, and how we can best act on her behalf. So I'm gonna say one more thing. How are we doing for time, everybody? 5 minutes, okay. So drawing on the film we've just watched, for some of you who haven't watched it, that's okay, and the conversation you've just had with your partner, I would like everyone to think about what really motivates them, what they're good at, and or if you're not good at something, what do you love to do, and how can you turn that love and that passion into action? So I'm not sure if Anthony's handed out some I will cards. Do you wanna go for it and just? Okay, well, if you've got an I will card, please take one and fill it out and hand it back up to us. But the question on the card says, what action do you feel inspired to take? And I want you to have a think about what you're good at and how you can use that passion to take action. I'm going to ask Jack, actually, in our last 5 minutes. Jack, what do you think you are good at? And what action would you take if you just had one action?
You want me to answer that now?
Oh, you're going to time out? No, Jack.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. How long is it saying to time out?
Do you want me? No, I said, do you want me to answer that now?
Oh, yeah, please.
Think about it
No, you can. I'm putting you on the spot.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. I think it's a really interesting question, this. And it's something I talk about a lot. You know, all of us need to ask ourselves, what's my unique skill that I can lend to this movement? And I think for a while, like for many years, I actually didn't know the answer to that question at all. You know, I learned a lot about the climate crisis, and I'm sure like many people here in this audience, I just felt very overwhelmed, I felt very paralyzed, I felt a lot of fear. And the only way I knew how to take action at that time was to get involved with protest and activism. That's what felt accessible to me in that time. And so I marched down the streets of London, banging a drum and shouting from the top of my voice. I glued myself to a building and got myself arrested. And I look back now and I think that probably wasn't the best use of my time and energy. But at that time, I didn't see any other options. So I only share that to say that it isn't always simple. It isn't always in front of you. And it took me to sit down with myself, or maybe it was that time spent in the cell overnight, to really ask myself, well, what are my unique skills and what can I lend to this movement? And for me, it was making films, which seemed like a really small and menial thing, you know, to create YouTube videos. And I wanted to be I wished I could have been a sort of world-changing scientist, like creating, you know, inventing solutions, or mathematician or something. I made YouTube videos, but I decided that was the best thing I could lend to this movement. And really Earthrise and all of the kind of content we've gone on to create was born out of that thinking. So I think that's my skill as being a communicator, and you know, that's one role. You know, scientists play a hugely important role, but they can't do it without communicators, and communicators can't do it without the scientists doing the work on the ground. And there are so many more roles, all the people who are just doing the activism on the ground, and it isn't necessarily sexy, you know, it isn't like, it's not front facing. People who are just doing the policy and the organizing, like Shivi bringing together this pavilion, what an incredible achievement. And it's not, you know, something you get a lot of gratitude for. It's a lot of hard work behind the scenes, but it's what's enabling us to have this conversation right now. And Reboot the Future, all of the work they did to make this campaign happen. Ellen in particular, who brought the whole thing together. So everyone has a role, is the point that I'm making. And you just have to sit with yourself and ask, what's your particular skill?
Thank you so much, Jack. And I think I wouldn't call them like little YouTube videos. I mean, you have like 3.4 million subscribers now, so clearly you were doing something right. And what about you, Shivi? Just to finish this off, what's your I will? What's the one thing you're going to do, apart from get some food and a drink after this conversation?
No, for me, it's just remembering the buzz here and what can happen if you create a space for youth and future generations to come together. And I will commit to continue doing this. I will commit to remind myself that every action matters, and it's not about, you know, in my minuscule role, what am I doing, or in my small space, what am I able to do? I think a constant reminder that every action matters. Every voice matters.
And on that note, I think we are going to close. Can everyone say thank you so much, please, to Shivi Dwivedi and to Jack Harries for joining us today. Thank you. Thank you. There you go.
And thank you, Ellen. Thank you for this beautiful session.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. The film's available, guys, on Earthrise's YouTube channel. It's We Are Antarctica. If you type that into Google, you'll probably also get our campaign hub, where you can go on there, purchase yourself a lovely pack of conversation cards, and leave a pledge for the planet on there as well, please. It's a big show of collective impact, and I know you're all here to make impact. So thank you so much for listening, and enjoy your evening.